Evening, and let us bang thy gavel. It is April 16th. Holy cow, 2025. Time doesn't stop, ladies and gentlemen. All right, well, let us start with a quick acknowledgement. In the spirit of reconciliation, we will begin by acknowledging the traditional territories of the people of Treaty 7 region of Southern Alberta, which includes the Blackfoot Confederacy, Siksika, Kainai, and Kainai First Nations, the Stoney Nakoda, Bearspaw, Chiniki, and Wesley First Nations, the Dene of Sina First Nations, the Métis Region 3, and all those that make Treaty 7 land their home, including all of us. We are looking at a consent agenda. Hazel, have you looked it over? Is there anything you would like to move over to the regular meeting?
No, it looks good.
All right, I'll take that as a motion to adopt. Councilors, comments? Good?
No, all great.
All in favor?
Mhm.
All right, that is accepted. Our regular agenda for tonight. Any errors, omissions, anything we want to add, anywhere we want to move it? Are we good?
Caught it.
Let's take a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
I'll give it to you.
Brendan gives us that. All in favor? Thank you. And we are going to have a closed session here. So I'm going to give us a motion to go into closed. We are going to have two items. We are going to have our auditor's report from MNP LLP, FOIP section 24.1, and we are going to talk about contracts, which is FOIP section 17.4F, 19.2, and 25.1C. All in favor of going to closed session?
I guess so.
Okay.
That's carried. Thank you. Reconvene at 6:17. We started this evening's meeting at 5:02, I believe it was. Went into a closed session after adopting the agenda as presented for two items: auditors report under FOIP section 24 and contracts under FOIP section 17, 19, and 25. And here we are now, back at it again. And we have some action items coming out of closed, which include the auditor's report.
Sounds good.
Back to it.
Over to you.
Mayor and council, if we could pull up the, just
This question period.
Oh, question period. I kind of went right to that, didn't I? We backpedal one. Do we have any questions, first of all?
No,
Then I shall forego the rigor model question period.
Don't do the preamble.
No, we're good. If they weren't submitted. So question period is a 15-minute section of time.
No,
Council meeting.
no.
No.
Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. No questions were received via email or phone or text. Therefore, we will move on to the very juicy auditors.
okay. Next.
You like that intro? That was
He's
good.
hard.
Just take a breath.
Yeah, that's
To make sure. So today I'll present to you your consolidated financial statements for December 31st and our audit report. So we go to the first page, which just outlines management responsibility. So this is a declaration by management just to sign off that just says that they have prepared the information that is within these financial statements. As auditors, we come in and audit these financial statements, and then you as council appoint us as auditors to come in and are responsible for overseeing management with respect to the financial reporting process. Next page, please. Okay, so this is the juicy part. So this is our auditor's report. So just as an estate, we always state our opinion first. So this year we have a qualified opinion. This is the exact same opinion that we had last year. The basis for the qualified opinion can be described in note 1K, which is related to an accounting standard that was brought in last year called the Asset Retirement Obligation Standard. The Asset Retirement Obligation Standard requires that public sector entities go out and estimate what a liability would be associated with any offense of a legal requirement to clean up, to fix up, return to a natural state if they were to retire said asset. So for example, think of a building with a bunch of asbestos in it. If you were going to tear down that building, you have to go remediate all that asbestos before you can tear down that building so it doesn't become. That would be an example of that. Due to the amalgamation and due to everything else that was going on within the town and just making sure that we have other priorities first, town has decided not to do this year. So resources have not been spent on this. This will take time. This will take cash. So decision was made to not follow this standard. No significant impact otherwise to your statements, so this is just a note that that is why we have our qualified opinion. Except for that matter, everything else on the statements present fairly in all material respect the consolidated financial position of the town as of December 31st and the results of its operations. The rest of the opinion just goes through with the responsibilities of management and those charged with governance, council are there, and then as well our auditor responsibility as well, which is identify and assess the risk in your material statement, obtain an understanding of internal controls, evaluate the appropriateness of accounting policies, include on said appropriateness, do procedures in order to conclude and provide an opinion, and then provide that opinion to you, council. With respect to municipalities, there's also two other regulatory requirements that we opine on. So if you just scroll down a little further, this is specific only to municipalities. You would not see this in another audit report, say if we were doing a regular business. And this just says the town is in compliance with its debt limit regulation and the town has disclosed salary and benefit disclosure requirement as required by the MGA. And those can be found in note 9 and note 14. Any questions from council on the audit report?
Sure.
Perfect. So we'll start off here with your consolidated statement of financial position. And let's try to, can we try to fit it all in one by chance? Yeah, that's good. Perfect. So the reason why we're calling this consolidated, just so everybody's aware, is because the Sheep River Utility Corporation gets consolidated into your financial statements because the town is a 90% shareholder of that and has deemed control of that corporation. So that's why we're saying consolidated. So when we talk numbers here, we are also talking the Sheep River Utility Corporation numbers as well that get brought in. But overall, the town is much more significant than that, so it's a reflection of the town. Whenever I look at a public sector entity, the first thing I always want to look at is your net financial assets, otherwise known as your liquidity. So you can see that it's 12.2 million with an increase from last year of 11.8 million. What this represents essentially is the town's liquidity. So if we were to shut down the operations today, collect all the outstanding receivables, pay all our outstanding debt, how much cash would we have left on hand? And you can see that it's 12.2 million. What consists of that 12.2 million? You have $20,000 or $20 million of financial assets, 8.4 of that being cash, 7 million of that being long-term investments, and then about 4.6 or 4.7, sorry, in receivables. Within those receivables, you see they're made up of trade receivables as well as tax receivables. In terms of your liabilities, you have your standard trade payables, so that's your regular suppliers, regular invoices that you need to pay monthly. You have your deposit liabilities, so this would be developers or potential other deposits made to the town where there's a deposit made with the intention that it probably is returned to whoever gave it to you. You also have your deferred revenues. This is revenue that is received or to be received. If it's still receivable, that will be spent in future years, either on capital projects or on something that the council has designated those dollars to be spent on. And then lastly, of course, you have the employee benefit obligations and long-term debt. So that all of that together makes your 12.2 net financial assets, once again, which is your liquidity. If we're looking at major changes, I'll go through assets first. There is a cash flow statement which outlines the change in cash, but I'll kind of give you a brief on that. So essentially, from your operation activities, you generated $1.2 million in cash this year. $2 million was spent on capital, $200,000 was spent on debt, and $200,000 was put to investments on a net basis to increase your investment balance. So that explains that change in cash there. Essentially, we got some cash from operations, we spent our money on capital, we put some more away, and we continue to pay down our debt. With respect to your receivables, they're relatively consistent from a tax perspective in terms of the makeup as well from current taxes versus arrears. Actually, if you look at the details in note 3, you'll actually see they're almost bang on similar. It's quite eerie, which is good because that means you're staying consistent with your collection process and you're staying consistent with who's paying you in terms of that. With respect to your trade and other receivables, you will see that is a larger number than the previous year. It's quite a big jump. Biggest reason for the jump is government grants. So a lot of government grants have been submitted to be paid to help pay for capital projects. The dollars just have not yet come in. With respect to your investments, we kind of already talked about that. On a net basis, you increased your investments. In terms of your liabilities, with respect to accounts payable, when you try to look at this, you always have to remember that a financial position is a snapshot in time. It's going to look different on January 1st. It's going to look different on December 30th, because obviously you're paying invoices, you're receiving new invoices, etc. So the accounts payable, there's not one invoice that's really causing that large jump. It's more of the timing from when you received to when you paid. With respect to the deferred revenue, you also see that jumped up quite a bit this year. Goes back to that government grants we spoke of and how government grants are set aside for specific purposes. Any questions on your financial assets or liabilities at all? Perfect. So if we look at our non-financial assets, so these are our physical assets or assets that have already been purchased. You'll see that you do have an increase in your tangible capital assets, and you also see that you have a long-lived asset held for sale, which is new this year. This long-lived asset held for sale is actually this very building that we're standing in. Management has let it known that there's an intent to sell this building and there's an intent to get rid of this building. So when that is, and we know that we're going to be holding the building to sell, it actually gets classified differently on your balance sheet to show that this is no longer an asset that is going to be used in the future and an asset that's going to be actively sold. Other than that, with respect to your inventory and prepaid expenses, they're relatively consistent with the prior year. Any questions on any of that?
Just on the long-lived asset.
Yep.
246,000, that's not this building though.
That's not the market value.
Okay,
That's the book value. So whatever
Okay.
cost would have been spent and capitalized in the past and then subsequently depreciated, that's the amount that's left.
that's it.
So it doesn't represent market value. It just represents what the book value was sitting on your balance sheet at that time.
We hope to get a bit more than that.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa. Who did that? Who did the assessment?
You likely will, yeah. Not
Okay.
market value, just book value of what's been sitting on your books for whatever you spent on it, less depreciation.
Thanks for
Did you
clarifying.
just say assessment? This is not an assessment.
No.
No, that's what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Oh, you gotta pay yourself a low assessment for your own taxes. No, that's not what this is.
So there was the accumulated surplus in there, but I believe it is explained better by this statement. So I'll go on the statement of operations. So this is your statement of operations for the year. So essentially what revenue expenses you had during this year. I'll talk more about revenue first because I believe that the expenses are better explained in a later schedule. So in terms of revenue, you can see that we're down a little bit this year. Main driver of that is the government transfers for operating. We'll see that that went from 2.3 to 609. And it goes down to your amalgamation. Last year, there was a large grant for operating to deal with the amalgamation costs and to deal with all the extra costs that you had to go through with that. We did not receive that grant this year. So that's why that's dropped. On the flip side, you'll see that your user fees and sales of goods have gone up quite a bit. This is due mainly to a change in billing and how we billing our firemen out. And as well, I believe that the Jasper wildfire, they assisted with that and the town got recompensated for that as well. With respect to your net municipal taxes, you'll see that that changed a bit. From when I looked at your tax file, it doesn't look like the tax levy went up. It actually looks like it went down a little bit, but the assessment values increased quite a bit compared to the prior year. In terms of investment income, you'll see that's also increased. There was a change in the prior year to how you do your investments. So now they're sitting with Raymond James and ATB. Before they were just sitting in a regular bank account, collecting interest. So now there's an intention, I believe, with investment to earn more. So you're seeing the effect of that. Everything else is relatively consistent. When we get to your franchise and contracts, concession contracts, you'll see that there's a jump there, and essentially your ATCO contract, the rates went up there, so you got more money. There is a gain on disposal of capital assets again this year, and essentially that's just the accounting gain that you received from selling those assets. So how that's calculated essentially is we say, what were the proceeds in? What was the book value that was being carried on your books? And then what's the delta there? All that added up, you get 50 there. So all in all, revenue went from 15.8 to 15.2, but largely that's due to the amalgamation grant drop there. Any questions on revenue at all? Perfect. As I said, I'm going to skip the expenses a little bit just because they are done by department here. And I believe that there's a schedule later on by object that's much more informative. I will just talk on your government transfers to capital, your excess deficiency of revenue, and the accumulated surplus. So you will see that it looks like you have a deficiency of revenue over expenses. This is an accounting deficiency. This is not a cash deficiency. We already talked about the fact that your operating transactions have generated cash of 1.2 million. You have about $3 million in a depreciation expense, which represents the ongoing depreciation of your assets. It's an accounting item. It's not a cash item. And if you look at the next page, it's about 3,014,000. That's buried within these numbers and generating that deficiency. If we take that out, all of a sudden you'll see that you have a surplus, right? Now, It is a bit of a tricky thing to think about because depreciation does represent a cost to you because that was cost you would have spent in the past on building those assets, investing in those assets. And it also does represent that one day you will have to replace those assets, right? So just something to be aware of there. Then you'll see that you have your government transfers to capital. This is going to fluctuate year over year, always, just depending on what capital projects get finished, what capital projects get started, and the government also compensating for those. So all in all, we have a excess of revenue over expenses by the end of it of 700,000. So an increase to our accumulated surplus from 94.5 million to 95 million. So all in all, when I look at this and your financial statement as well, or sorry, your financial position and your statement of operations, I do believe the town is in a very financially healthy position. Has a lot of, it's sitting on a lot of cash, so there is ability there. Generally, you want to have 6 to a month's year's worth of free cash. Way more than that, which is good because it allows you to invest in infrastructure, invest in your capital assets, and do those major projects that is required of it.
You say that again?
Yeah,
I'm just kidding. I mean, I'm in a financially healthy position. I love
yes,
hearing.
yes, you are.
Minus our infrastructure.
Yeah, well, but it gives us, like he was saying, it gives us a little bit of ability to start working on that. So
And you make that comment in regards to what you might see in other municipalities for, okay, that's what I like to hear.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's a low bar though.
Hey,
We've done
well,
lots of validates.
if our bar's a
We're
little
getting
bit
there.
higher.
We're getting there. We'll get there.
If they're ankle and we're knee high, I'll take the knee.
This is part of the features of amalgamation, getting us a right foundation. So
That's right.
eventually we'll see the benefits, but it takes time.
Yes.
This page I won't touch on much. This just explains how we got to that net financial asset number. So what changed to give you that 12.2 million we talked about in liquidity. And you'll see that that depreciation expense I talked about is added back because it's a non-cash item. We'll skip the cash flows because I've already kind of talked about that, but it just summarizes, like I said, the cash provided from operating transactions, 1.2 million, and how we spent that. Where I will skip to though is Schedule 2, consolidated schedule of capital assets. So you'll see here, this is kind of the capital assets that you're investing in. You'll see that you have a large amount sitting in assets under construction. The main culprit for this is First Avenue Northwest. That is one of the bigger expenses that you have there, sitting there. In terms of, and then also a refrigeration system that's in there. So
The rink.
yeah, costs with the refrigeration system and First Ave make up the majority of that 3.1 in assets under construction. I would expect those probably to finish and then move over to your other classes. So your engineered structures and your buildings next year. With respect to the vehicles sold and the buildings sold, so the vehicles sold is that gain of capital asset we talked about. So there's some vehicles that were sold in the year. That building is just like we said, classifying that building as now being held for sale rather than going to be an ongoing asset. And you'll see that we kind of described that down in the third paragraph there. And the second paragraph just describes what was what the cost of what was disclosed and what we got for it. Any questions there? The next schedule is just the schedule of property taxes and requisitions. Don't think I need to go through these in real detail. It's what you would have approved, plus or minus some timing of potential dollars at the door versus dollars. The scheduled government transfers, as you can see, we go from that 2.3 to that 600,000 with provincial government being our biggest culprit, and that's that amalgamation grant that you get. So that's that big drop there. With respect to transfers to capital, that's always going to depend on whatever capital projects you have going on. So it's going to fluctuate year over year. Obviously, we had that refrigeration, we had that First Avenue, so there's a lot of capital stuff going on this year. Now we'll go to the schedule that I was talking about. That explains the expenses a lot better, I think. So that first expense line item there is that amortization or depreciation of capital assets. That's the one I was talking about where it is a non-cash item, but it does represent the cash you would have spent in the past on those assets. And then the ongoing need that eventually we're going to have to repair these assets one day.
Could you give a few examples of some of those assets, if you don't mind?
Every single one that you have.
All your bills.
Everything.
Both roads, buildings, machinery.
Might be bigger than 3 million.
That's the depreciation. element.
That's the depreciation, yeah.
That's not the replacement cost.
Like 92 million in assets.
In assets, okay, thank you.
Good question.
Yeah, no,
Just a need to clarify.
yeah, if you want this meeting to go long, we could do it.
I refrain. I'll shut up.
It's a good question.
Yeah.
It's just,
Can I just A good way to look at it is that our assets are $3 million, worth 3 million less, so if we're not investing 3 million into capital in a year, then we're actually aging
We're in a negative.
and.
Faster
getting
than-
Negative, yeah,
Right.
we're,
Thank
yeah,
you.
our assets are aging faster than we're replacing.
And we were less than 3 million last year.
That's 3 million off of the capital.
Right, yeah.
And then the reason why you see that the budget item is much lower than the expense is because the town's budget actually doesn't include depreciation, and that budget item is from truck. So that's why it looks kind of
Mhm.
weird.
Looks like a deficit, but it's not.
Yeah. So just put that on the radar there. In terms of actual changes, with respect to contract and general services, you'll see that drop this year. Essentially goes back to amalgamation costs, HR costs, excess costs that were incurred due to the amalgamation. So now I expect them to probably flatten out at this rate, maybe increase by inflation next year. Materials, goods and utilities, you'll see that increased this year. Essentially, it's your fire, the additional activity the fire department had this year. Utility costs increased slightly with inflation, and then insurance, obviously, I'm sure everybody's aware, insurance keeps going up every year. And last year was no exception. With respect to those other expenses, within those expenses, it's mostly truck costs that don't really have a place classification wise on here. And then a bad debt for a grant that we determined was not going to be collected. With respect to your salaries, you'll see that's increased. Once again, fire people, fire and fire women. Fire team. There we go. And then I believe there was a COLA increase for some staff for 2% as well. So we see that increase there. With respect to your transfers to local boards and agencies, you'll see that drop quite a bit from the previous year. Last year, there was a $900,000 amount given to West End for lagoon upgrades. So the town gave West End $900,000 for that. So that was represented at 3 million. You don't have to give them the $300,000 this year, so now we've dropped. That's pretty much the major changes there in expenses. Any questions at all from council? Perfect. Okay. Well, now skip ahead. I'm going to skip a lot of pages. So
Yeah, you definitely didn't see a raise on that.
So the next couple pages essentially are just the segment disclosure. So it's really good to see if you want to see how a certain department did. It'll look a bit wonky because most departments are in a deficit, but that's because the general government receives all the taxes and essentially is how it pays for all this. So it's a bit of a wonky reporting thing. But it just kind of shows you where the expenses were in which department.
There it is.
Which one do you have?
And there's this year and last year. After that, it's the significant accounting policies. So for our non-accountant friends, if you need a good reading for sleeping time, I would recommend those. That's from page 13 and 16. But I will go to page 17 on here. 17 on mine. It's gonna be in there. There we go. Perfect. So just talk about that receivable, just kind of hammer home what I said there about the government grants receivable. You will see that the biggest increase there within your trade receivables is those government grants, which went from 318 to 2.4. Once again, it's always going to be timing of when submission was made to receive the dollars, when the government actually accepts it and flows you the dollars. It's going to look different next year. It's going to look different the year after that. It's all timing. With respect to everything else, you'll see that they're relatively flat or slightly increased from the previous year. In terms of the GST, you'll see the GST there higher than the previous year. Essentially, this is just a hold up in CRA's end. From my understanding, it's all been collected subsequent to year end. It's just CRA administration.
That's 2.4 under grants receivable. That's for 2024. That's already spent and gone.
Some is not. So a fun thing that we're allowed to do now under accounting standards is actually be able to show all that revenue that you're owed, even if you haven't yet spent it. So that's a change for this year that we're allowed to do now. In prior years, if you hadn't spent it and you hadn't received it, we wouldn't record it. Bit of change.
Yeah.
With respect to note 6 for revenue, you'll see that the largest item that's been sitting there last year and it's been sitting there for quite a number of years is just recovery erosion control. But my understanding, there's now been approval that you can spend those dollars. That's excellent, finally. And then it just breaks down also what's outstanding for MSI, LGFF, CCTF, and all that good stuff there. In terms of other notes, there's not really much I'll talk about. All of them kind of just provide more information on what's sitting on your balance sheet. The only one that I will touch on is going to be note 20. So this is just a disclosure of the subsequent event, which is from our understanding that there is a plan in place to acquire, I don't know if we're gonna say acquire or absorb. Absorb essentially the West End Regional Sewer Service Commission, so we just disclose that, knowing that that's gonna happen this year sometime. So that's the only other thing that'll be majorly different, and then also you'll see the note above that talking about what we transferred to West End Regional, and you'll see that 900,000 that I was speaking about last year. Other than that, that's your financial statements in a whole. That's kind of the major highlights. Is there any questions at all from council? Anything that you'd like me to touch on that we've not yet touched on?
Just wanted to hear one more time how well we're doing.
Mihai, could you go to the hip? Can you get us up to the
I
hip?
just want to keep Adam here. This long. He always brings us challenging news. He's like, and it's just for us.
Yes.
No, that's great. Yeah.
I think, so when we absorb West End, it's a $21 million upgrade, so that then becomes one of our assets. And then the depreciation starts milking in, so that number is gonna also increase.
Yep.
As it rolls out.
So my expectation is that obviously your revenue expenses are gonna go up relative to whatever West End brings in. Your assets are gonna go up, so your appreciation for sure is gonna go up. So when we try to do year over year next year, it's gonna be interesting.
Yeah.
We also likely are gonna have to bring in comparatives into your financial statements, so that way it doesn't look all wonky. Yeah, it'll be fun next year.
Yes, please, and then I'll just ask.
Yeah, no, I was just asking Cindy for clarification too, because I was curious about the liability, including the debenture. We already own that debenture. So I just wanted to make sure that the public knew that.
Yeah, we're not adding an extra expense.
That's right. That $4 million that's listed on that last line for number 20, we already have that loan on our books. Yeah, so we won't be bringing in an additional $4 million in debentures.
Good point.
Just worth noting.
45% tax increase. No.
Yeah,
Because we haven't added on the capital asset.
that's right.
You're missing that, yeah.
So yes, and I'll actually bounce it. Now I forgot what I was gonna ask you. It's such a detailed auditor question. I mean, straight from the top of my
That's why I
brain.
forgot it so fast.
It's probably like, do you play golf or something? Nope, I've lost it, so I won't even bother. Cindy?
Just make sure that the West End thing gets flagged, so CFIB doesn't have fun making fun of us again.
There you go.
Right?
I think this time it'll.
This will be
It'll be
benefit,
actually
actually,
help your benefit,
Yeah.
not your detriment.
but it's after an election, so.
Yeah,
Adam
okay.
needs that story. He doesn't know what that's all about.
He doesn't.
Yes, institutional knowledge, we call it. All right, if that's all we got, we're gonna take a motion to accept the auditor's report as presented, yeah?
I'd be happy to give that to you.
Thank you very much. All in favor? Thank you, and I shall sign said documents and letters as required. Good. You are released from custody, sir. We'll see you back here in 11 months and,
Thanks, Cameron.
Thanks, Cameron. Thank you for having me over.
Thanks for
11
coming out.
months. Thanks for the reminder.
yeah.
Oh, this is, I think last time I said it was 8 months ago.
Yeah.
So it'll be a normal timeline.
Yeah. Might be looking at different faces.
Yeah. Right.
There's a
So,
few.
it'd be like-
True enough. All right, sir. Do appreciate all the work and really appreciate that you gave lots of kudos to our staff and the cooperation that they gave you and your team. So that speaks miles for us. And yeah, appreciate your diligence.
Enjoy your Easter.
Yeah, happy Easter, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your week. Thanks very much for having me.
Alrighty.
Sarah.
Okay, 7.2 delegation decision
We made
2024.
Give it to you.
That's what we just did. Bylaws and policies, 8.1 bylaw 2025-106 responsible pet ownership.
I'd be happy to start off with a motion and then council can discuss it.
That's a great idea.
Okay, that council give bylaw 2025-106 responsible pet ownership bylaw third and final reading.
Jonathan and Hazel.
Yeah, so just one point, I think they kept the definition of bees in there, if I'm not mistaken, so we removed the section, so I'm wondering why we still have the definition for
That's a
bees in there. And there's also a misspelling in there as well, it says insect when it's supposed to be insect, referring to the bee, so I would suggest we strike that definition since we're not referring to bees.
Bees shall be no longer.
It's not
Good.
just investment.
No bird feeder problems. And
Yeah, that's Article G for
and
the
we're not
bees,
touching
right?
any bees.
What, is there a particular height for the bird feeders?
That is because he's adding.
I'm gonna read the places to the-
Oh, so if you have really tall deer.
Yeah, if you haven't moved from me. I know a couple of guys. All right, so definition to be struck.
Yeah.
And any other further discussion?
No,
It hit all the bells and whistles that we asked for.
we beat this down last meeting.
We did.
Excellent, thank you. All in favor?
Yes, sir.
That is carried, thank you. 8.2 election signs bylaw and required LUB amendments.
This is just first reading.
Yeah, and Hazel just had a point that she wanted to point out on, just to get some clarity on.
We have the motion here. We cite land use bylaw 2021-1114. Could we include the former name of Turner Valley in there? Just more back for reference?
It's your motion. You are welcome to be that specific if you choose. It's no problem with it at all.
Okay. We could do it as a friendly amendment if
These are
if
proposed
council
motions.
so wishes.
Yep, these are proposed motions. You can do that
Okay,
for sure.
thank
Just
you.
add in the TV right there and you can read it.
Okay,
And just a friendly reminder, first readings, we just,
just move it along.
Mhm.
Okay. That council give first reading to bylaw 2025-110, which amends land use bylaw. And this is where the friendly amendment will come in, 21-114. In brackets, Turner Valley to reference the old town. To remove election sign regulations.
Ready? Any discussion?
Just a question for Verna, because it always came out in Black Diamond. Does
Yeah.
this? I just don't want to get the hospital people upset with all the signs on there. Does
It's
this,
a large sign.
what's that?
East.
Yeah.
The west side though?
We removed it from that strip
It's not-
until there. It's on the other side of the
Oh,
highway.
okay, perfect. Okay, thank you. Right,
The corral.
right, thank you.
All righty.
Yeah.
All in favor? Excellent.
Oh, yeah.
Let's keep going through.
Roll.
Sure, the council give first reading to bylaw 2025-111, which amends land use bylaw 2021-06 to remove the election sign regulation.
Add the BD in there.
No, that's fine. They know which one it is.
Okay.
Mhm.
Any further debate? All in favor? And that was carried.
The council give first reading to bylaw 2025-102 election signs bylaw,
112.
112, excuse me, election signs bylaw, friendly amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything? Anybody want to point out anything? All good? Thank you.
Oops, good.
Feeling good? Feeling good about that?
Yeah.
All in favor?
Yes, sir.
Man, look at that, I carried. I didn't even believe the look. All right. How about this one? The council direct administration to schedule a public hearing for bylaws 2025-110 and 2025-111 for a future date. All in favor?
Mhm.
And that's carried.
And the notice here in the paper.
Oh, yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
They have to follow the regulation.
All right.
Communication bylaw.
Excellent. Moving on. 8.4 bylaw 2025-114 municipal policing committee bylaws.
8.3 first, your worship.
Waste management.
Oh, sorry, yes, I put a check mark on it, sorry. 8.3, backpedal. Bylaw 2025-116 amends waste management bylaw. Which, oh,
Probably nonprofits.
Yeah, so
the knives.
should,
Yes, sir, go ahead.
everybody pays for garbage removal in the town,
Mhm.
right? Resident, non-resident. I mean, in the past, it didn't matter. If you had a bin, you paid for it.
Correct.
So we're making an exception, so that they can continue to pay. But, you know, again, going local and contracting out, I understand what Councillor Thompson's position was on this last time. And I think your position perhaps as well. The costs are pretty relative. So I support this up into a certain point because I just don't want to open the can of worms because we're making an exception. So that's really my only concern with this. You can go to TNT and almost for the same price of waste removal, get it done at your leisure. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I would support this, but I don't want to go down the road next week, a couple weeks after this, hearing from other people because they're upset that they don't have waste removal anymore either. So you make an exception for one, and then it's like, why aren't we doing it for everybody else? So I just wanted to bring that up.
It's a good point.
Because we're looking at 6 right now. 6 organizations.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're thinking if a small business comes forward and says.
Can we
"Yeah,
get back on it too?
Yeah, I generate 1 bag of garbage.
Right. Yeah. So again, I support it because you know, these are not-for-profit organizations. I just don't know where we draw the line as a council. If we do get those letters, maybe we have that conversation when we do, or if we do. But I just want to bring it up.
Yep. Follow on that. That's why I do like the clear definition of nonprofit.
Yeah.
Because it just keeps it right there in the box. And we say, sorry, it's for nonprofits. That's where our exception line is. Everything else, like you say, you got some options, go for it. And yeah, I wouldn't want to muddy the waters any further than this because we have such a clean, clear definition of a nonprofit.
Okay.
So.
Because they were part of they were in the definition of institutional services.
Right.
So I mean, really, a church is an institutional service or like.
Okay.
So, yeah. Okay, another comment?
Do we offer the different sizes for their organic size bins? Like there's the
One size only.
120 and 240. It's in the bylaw on page 162.
I
I
think Craig has a response for you.
I can answer that. We don't offer 120 liter to all residents, only the condo associations where their space is quite limited. So we did give those residents a reduced size, but 240 is the standard.
Thank you very much, Craig. Okay. I did realize that we did have the smaller ones for the condos.
And just so we're clear, they're under HOAs as well.
Yes, so sorry, when I refer to the condos, like, yeah, the HOAs such as the two that are up on Imperial
Yes.
and a couple others.
Okay, perfect. Good. All right. All right, good. We have a motion, yes, you made it?
I didn't
Maybe
make
just
it.
asking questions.
I'll let somebody
Right.
else take this one.
Okay.
I
there you go.
will.
Go ahead, Hazel.
That council give first reading to bylaw 2025-116 to amend bylaw 2024-41 waste management bylaw.
Thank you. Any further comments from council? Thank you for your comments, clarity. All in favor? Carried. I'll give the council second reading to bylaw 2025-116. Further comments, questions?
No, sir.
All in favor? That is carried.
I'll give the next one, the council agreed to present bylaw 2025-116 for its third reading at this meeting.
Thank you. Any further comments, questions? All in favor? And that is unanimous as required. Cindy?
The council's gonna, they're reading to bylaw. But they're final reading to bylaw 2025-116. To amend bylaw 2024.
Yeah.
Sorry, Susan.
Okay, sorry. On the call? Seeing none, all in favor? And that is carried. All right, now 8.4, bylaw 2025-114 municipal policing committee bylaw. Who would like to take this one, Mr. Al?
Yeah, I can just briefly do your worship. So this one's coming back. So council again, the province declared that you'd have the decision to either have it locally or regionally. Council opted for it locally, so this is the bylaw coming back. If all three readings are given tonight, we'll advertise shortly thereafter.
Wonderful.
And I think that was what we were looking for from our last discussion.
Yep.
Yeah.
Was to get this thing moving.
Yeah.
So, start us off, Brendan.
The council give bylaw 2025-114, the municipal policing committee bylaw, first reading.
Thank you. Any comments? Cindy, please.
Yeah, the only thing I'm not 100% sold on was that a member of council is not eligible to be elected as the chair or vice chair of the policing committee.
Doesn't that get full ended like her name
I know, I know the rationale for why they try and do that, but in my experience in practice, you have members at large that are really not comfortable at the same level as a counselor for chairing meetings, and then things just get awkward and don't go as.
That's
Yeah.
legislative.
Is it legislative?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. And we're,
So naturally,
Still
the
some light.
staff and the RCMP rep will have to rein it in.
all right. Then it is what it is.
So, I'm sorry, because I agree with Cindy, why,
But it's it's legislative, and it can't be a counselor that sits as chair.
yeah, because,
It's biased.
okay, well, seeing our hands are tied, I'll just throw in on the bus anyway. Yeah, nothing worse than sitting in a meeting and the chair is scared to talk.
Yeah.
And it just drags.
Unsure of the
drags it.
situation.
So, yeah, I like it when we have a chair who's on council, who then is sitting in other meetings and can actually banter back and forth. So anywho, our hands are tied, so all in favor?
So maybe some training.
Yeah, I think your worship, when it comes up with staff there, we'll just keep it tight to the agenda, kind of give the do's and don'ts.
Just guidance throughout. They'll be there.
Yeah.
Well, then having good members at large step up, which council then can vet, that's important too, right? So that's our point where we can decide who's sitting on that committee, and who's gonna fit the bill. So I'll give the council, give bylaw 2025-114, correct? Yes. Second reading at this time. Any comments?
I think this is a great idea.
Three.
Yeah, to bring the community in. To have this.
All in favor? Good.
Give that council agreed to present bylaw 2025-114 for third reading at this meeting.
Thank you. All in favor? That is unanimous as required. And Brendan?
I guess the first one.
Oh, yeah.
That council give bylaw 2025-114, the municipal policing committee bylaw, third and final reading.
Thank you. Last call. All good. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. 8.5 bylaw 2025-115 designated officers bylaw and banking resolutions. Now it sounds like an AUMA committee, doesn't it?
It's another administrative duty that we can probably just fly right through.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll give you first. The council give bylaw 2025-115 designated officers bylaw. First reading.
Thank you. Any concerns?
No.
No.
Any from administration?
Nothing, your worship.
Good. Vin, you're all good?
He doesn't care.
If Vin gives me a thumbs up.
He's out of here in 2 minutes, man.
Yeah, you said give him the peace sign.
He's like, chill.
Gotta
dude.
give him a little time on it, you know, we got nothing for him, you know?
At least it wasn't this.
Yeah. All right, all in favor?
Yeah.
There you go.
That's carried.
Yes, please.
The council give bylaw 2025-115 second reading.
Thank you. You're the first person to actually condense that number. We like to stick to the singulars, 115, and you did it crazy and said 115.
That's what you've been doing. I just picked up on your note. You did that for the last one.
What?
I mean, I just picked up.
I said to point it out, it's just amazing. Advancements in time management. All right, he gives us.
Give me that chair back.
second reading. He gives the second reading. Any comment? All in favor? I'll give the council agree to consider bylaw 2025-115 for third reading at this meeting. All in favor? And that is unanimous as required. And we go ahead. Yes, please.
Like council give bylaw 2025-115, designated officer bylaw, third and final reading.
All in favor? Good one, John. That was good. All right. Letter of support is 8.6. Let's have a look at that, shall we?
Mayor Crane,
Yes, ma'am.
there's a whole schwack of motions we need in here
Yeah.
for the, following the designated officer bylaw. The
Sure.
banking resolutions and the appointments all need to happen.
Okay,
Oh,
All right.
let that one slip. Let's have a look, shall
Shall
we?
we give you the
Yeah,
first one?
Are we
Yeah, the
doing
banking
number one
resolutions.
with all 4 bullet points, just to be
Yes,
clear?
please.
Okay, so read it all.
Okay, so 1, 2, 3. I'm reading 1, 2, 3.
Just one in the 4 bullets.
1 in the 4 bullets. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't mind reading it. As long, yeah. You'd like me to read it, Abram? Yeah. Okay, that council agree, that an account and or accounts to, be continued with ATB Financial and Raymond James LTD in the name of the town of Diamond Valley, to authorize that all financial agreements, checks and negotiable instruments must be signed by administration as appointed by council. That members of council be authorized to sign such agreements, checks and negotiable instruments who shall be appointed by resolution to sign until the annual organization meeting of council, and at which time these signing authorities will be reviewed, and that the signors are authorized for and on behalf of the town to draw, accept, sign, exchange promissory notes, and orders for the payment of money, to transact with authorized financial institutions, any business that they may think fit, and to sign the financial institution's form of release and of settlement and release.
You.
And we're just doing them one at a time, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's number 1. We'll get an all in favor on that one.
Yep.
All in favor? Thank you. I'll give the council agree to authorize Mayor Barry Crane. I probably shouldn't do that one.
I'll give it. The council agree to authorize Mayor Barry Crane, Councillor Brendan Kelly, Councillor Hazel Martin, and Councillor City Holiday. Could have been just everybody but me. Why not, right?
Other two.
I feel left out.
My goodness, like talk about like
My
just
goodness, thanks,
ostracized.
guys. I'm not on any committees or anything. No, I'm kidding. As the council signing authorities for the town of Diamond Valley.
So, all in favor? Hazel, I'm sorry.
That council agreed to authorize CAO Adam Davy, Manager of Financial Services, Lisa Zier, and Legislative Services Manager Verna Staples as administration signing authorities for the town of Diamond Valley.
Question prior to this. So with Vin leaving, this would be enacted. Should we not include a date to make it effective as of?
As of today, is it no?
Well, that's what I'm asking.
And that's correct. That's
It'll be as of today. Okay, nope, thank you. I just want to make sure.
Still working, so.
That's right.
Join my club, Vin.
There you go. Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure that was clear. Okay, all in favor? Yeah. And that's carried.
And the next one.
Yes, please.
The council appoint the following as designated officers for the town of Diamond Valley and rescind all prior appointments. Municipal Assessor Doug Jensen, Manager of Financial Services Lisa Zier, Planning Manager Ferry Floor Zone, Legislative Services Manager Vernon Staples, Community Peace Officer Matt Hogan.
You. All in favor? Yep. Yeah, sure.
Okay, clerk appointments. The council make the following clerk appointments for the town of Diamond Valley and rescind all prior appointments, subdivision and development appeal boards clerk, Verna Staples and Iris Birch. Okay. Assessment review board clerks for the town of Diamond Valley with duties as prescribed by the Municipal Government Act and all statutes and regulations relating to the assessment complaint process. The clerk's remuneration will be in accordance with the employee's compensation, Verna and Irish Birch.
Cute.
Verna Staples and Irish Birch. Sorry, Verna.
I know, that's silent. All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you.
Okay.
Any more on that one?
That is
You're
that.
good.
Thank
Thank you.
That's a few. That was one. All right, some action items. Ooh.
No, there's just
letter.
stop checking things off. Jeez.
Vince,
You have things
David
checked
gave
off
it two-
twice. Yeah.
two
We
checks.
didn't even do it.
Yeah, here it is. Letter of support now. Better be an easy one.
It is.
Yeah.
I like 5.1.
All right, sure, go ahead.
The council direct administration to proceed with preparation of the policy for letters of support choosing 5.3.
Sounds good.
Okay, any thoughts? Any comments? All right. Thank you. All in favor? Can I check?
The process.
Don't check it again. I already checked twice.
That's the third,
It's just-
30th check. That's beautiful.
You checked 9.1.
Now I'm starting. 9.1, 2025 capital budget modification.
Thanks, your worship. In his final report, I'll call up Vin.
Oh,
Discuss
fine.
these capital budgets.
See, I knew we were gonna get some FaceTime here, Ben.
We have Craig here as well for questions.
Floor is yours.
Good evening, Council.
Thank you, sir.
So when we presented the capital budget in December 2025, we did mention that we will look in the first quarter, and if there are some changes or proposed changes needed to be done, we will come back to the council in after the first quarter, and that's why we are here. So a few proposals here in the next page. So that first four lines, that is the approved capital budget with the total amount of 1.412 million. So we are proposing the Sheep River Water Main Crossing, pause that project and move to 2026. Instead of that, take up the Frontneck project in 2025, but with the same amount. So there is no change in the amount. Then we are proposing that the admin building, BD admin building project, 400,000. And then there is a Foothill Cemetery capital project, which came in after our capital budget approval, which is 16,667. Then we got the approval today from the province for the FREC funds, the agreement to be signed, that is for 2.5 million. The total is 2.976, but the major amount is the 2.56 for the FREC. So how we are going to utilize that one to the funds, that is down below. So 400,000, assuming that initial we will take it out from the reserve, but after the sale of the property, we will put back that fund into the reserve back. Then the first amount, that is the 2.56, which we have already, so that we will be utilizing that fund. And the 16,667, the cemetery, that we will utilize from the grant or reserve. And so another note is between the Diamond Valley books and the province, there is a slight difference because as per the province, they are saying it is 2.6 million. And as per our books, that is 2.5 million. There is a difference of 23,583. So in case, if hopefully we can add that difference into the project, if not, we need to pay it back to the province with that difference. That is, either we need to take it out from the reserve or need to report as a gains.
Comments for you.
Yeah, a couple of questions, and this probably Craig will help me out with this. You noted that our request for the grant for the Sheep River crossing was denied again, but we were close, and so we're gonna resubmit. And then the second question, just update us on exactly what the Frontneck project looks like.
Yes, through the chair, Councillor Gordon. So the grant was denied once again. In speaking with the grant office, it appears that there's a little bit of a discrepancy or a misunderstanding as to the FREC rules around the replacement of that water line. They're confusing it with something that appears to be a new project or a project unrelated to a flood situation. So I've organized a meeting scheduled to come soon, I hope. We'll meet with the grant office, clarify that misunderstanding, and then resubmit that grant application once more. I feel pretty confident that once we've met with that grant office, explained the discrepancy or bring them some clarity on that project, that we should be awarded that grant, because it is really, that grant is almost custom fit for that project.
Just before he jumps to the next
Yes,
answer,
yes, please. Yeah.
just before you get to the front neck, would we be resubmitting in the fall with the anticipation for next spring, or do we resubmit again?
Yeah, through the chair, Councillor Kelly, that date has not yet been determined by the grant office, so we suspect that it'll probably be June, July.
Okay.
So we do want to meet with them before that next round of application submittals.
Okay.
And we'll hopefully, yeah.
Lots of time
clarify
to
that
look at the budget for next year.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you very much.
Councillor Hayes?
See you at the front neck.
No, I'm just gonna follow up on the
Oh,
same thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So,
Craig, knowing that you don't have a crystal ball in front of you, are there any potential impacts to the exposed pipes that we should be concerned about?
Great question, through the chair. Yeah, I mean, it's an exposed water line in a ever-changing flow of the Sheep River. So we do have spring melt coming. The hazard of having that exposed pipe, you have tumbling debris coming down the river. We do have the potential of an impact that would damage or puncture that pipe. And then we would have to isolate that line, which would be a reduction in our service capability for the community. It would reduce water pressures for the north side of the river. The other potential liability for us is people utilize that river for recreation purposes, whether they're fishing, swimming, or floating. It is above the riverbed, so it creates an entrapment potential with current flows. You could have somebody get trapped underneath that line and pin there. So right now the water flows are low, the water is low, probably not a big deal, but as the water starts to become more turbid and flowing faster, that does present a high hazard.
Okay, thank you. I think you answered my question. Same thing, FREC related with the funds. We got the 2.5 that was re-released, we'll call it.
Yeah.
To me, that is custom made to this flood damage, but we're saying we can go after this other grant once it's clarified with the grant authority, and we'll actually be able to have both, would be the ideal situation,
Yeah,
just to be clear.
yeah, through the chair, both grants are separate, so they're independent of each other.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Okay, front neck.
Yeah, and then sort of front neck, Turner Valley typically places the bulk of their utility services, water services in the laneways. So Frontenac does not have any storm in that road right away either. So the only utility service underground would be sanitary. So we would look to excavate that sanitary right away, replace it. We do have a 2.5 block section of old clay pipe It is in serious condition in that we've got infiltration occurring. We do have a potential for collapse in that some of that clay pipe is degraded to the point where we're really living week to week on that serviceability. So we would look to reduce our costs. We would probably just do a box trench, replace the sections as we proceed down the road, and then backfill and pave the excavated portion.
Wow.
When are we starting that project?
Once this is approved.
Wonderful.
That was your follow-up question, Hazel?
No, I'm really happy to see us investing
Yep.
into our infrastructure and especially on Frontenac. Because that has been a project that's been on the books for some time. And just to see this going forward. And I think the $800,000 is probably a really good price.
Councillor Holland.
I think we have a project over on the tennis court lands that we've kind of bumped, waiting to see. Is that still just waiting to see what the grant?
No, that was,
Is that, does anyone,
They're digging now.
in case, because we thought getting in at the same time as construction would be a smart idea.
Yeah, through the chair, that's a little bit of a complicated answer. It kind of popped up and we realized that a portion of sanitary in that chunk of land between Anderson and Dunham needs an upgrade. It's not that it's falling apart, it's undersized at the moment. So we do need to replace that, upgrade it, sorry. Then there was some thought that maybe that project wasn't gonna go this year, and now, of course, it is. And so now we're in a position where this line does need to be replaced. I don't know how that's gonna look, whether we do that this year or next year. But we do want to replace that line before, in my mind, operationally, we would want to replace that line before development or building of new properties occur. Because this line does cross through property, so there will be an easement. So it would be best to start with probably new water service and new sanitary service in there. There's also a storm line that crosses through there.
Do we have a quote? That was like in the 200 range, wasn't it?
That was for the sanitary only, but I would also, again, recommend that water and storm has been investigated. It looks like it will be fine, but yeah, so I'll have to readdress that one.
There's nothing better than putting a shovel in the ground when the shovel is already mobilized.
Yes.
And so they're moving, so maybe this is an opportunity for you to meet with Adam. Maybe we can look at fast forwarding some quotes to those guys. Because if they're gonna be mobilized there, that's a minimum 3 to 4 week strip, dig, pack, the whole 9 yards. So by the time that rolls out, they very well could probably provide a fairly good quote to do it now. And all the equipment's there. So I think that's something that we should look at.
I've already started that discussion with the current developer contractor on that site. I've begun that discussion with completing those deeps while they're doing their own. So I hope to have a pricing.
Your worship, maybe following this, we'll come back again, because there's still talk about the software too for finance we pulled out. We might bring it back for council's consideration, so maybe this would be two-phased. Look at these tonight and come back and a couple more meetings for the other two items.
Yeah,
If that's kind
I
of
would
what
think-
council's going.
I would think 2 weeks, they can
Yeah.
put together a number and they have access to the supplies, so we could have that back for a detailed discussion and.
And based on too, what you saw with the financial statements, there we are, actually in a pretty healthy position.
Mhm.
So I think, putting forward a bit more on capital is probably a prudent choice.
It's like shingling the house when you just put the roof on and get it done before it's snow. So. Okay,
So we can bring it back.
Cindy, another comment?
Just back to the berm project. This is, I think, one of the biggest wins for amalgamation, and
100%.
I know in you mentioned communication, you're just gonna put it on the website under capital budget, but can we do some sort of wind news? You're shaking your head.
Yeah.
This is amazing for the people that live in the Black Diamond area, flood area.
100%, your worship. We're actually gonna bring a separate report back on this, detailing what it is, doing the 5 Ws again, because this is, yeah, I mean, point blank, because of amalgamation, council pressuring or keeping the pressure on and staff actually doing that detailed analysis now. This is one of the biggest wins for the town for the next 50 years in terms of public safety. Right,
Yeah.
so this is huge. You add that, and if we get the Sheep River crossing one coming as well, I mean, that's well over $3 million of grants for very specific, practical public safety initiatives. So huge win. So we'll come back.
Okay, perfect.
Good job in Minnesota. We'll
We'll have Brendan down there doing a Facebook Live with some large Legos.
I'll wait till the trucks
What
are
the
there.
future Burma look like.
Once the trucks are there, I'll go right down, Sam with the trucks in the background.
All right, excellent. No, that is great work, Ben.
Yeah, for sure.
So how are we looking, Ben? After all that conversation, I mean, you must be feeling pretty good that we're in a position to say yes. I think, unless you got some big bomb you want to drop on us like that, you've been waiting to say, there's one thing I wanted to tell you I'm not so happy about. Do we have that conversation?
We'll get raises.
I'm happy.
He's happy.
I think it's,
I'll give that motion, then the council approve the proposed modifications to the 2025 capital budget. Well
Thank
done,
you
team.
again, Ben.
Well done.
Thank you. Yeah,
Great
appreciate that.
work.
All we can support, yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Well done.
And I will give.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations
Thank
to
you.
Lisa.
Yeah, as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or was it Glory? I was telling her, I was driving to work.
Don't, just leave it
All
on.
right, it's a good story for later. Okay, what do we got next here? Let me see, check mark on that one, Brendan. Oh, boy, 9.2 transit program funding obligation report.
Yeah,
Here's something we've been asking for a while.
I didn't quite understand this.
Lately
I
have.
do have a question on it. We can start right away.
Yeah,
The
sure.
next one says also.
Let's have it.
Yeah, thanks. Just to kick us off to your worship, if, just to recall, so this was as part of budget last year. We're looking at areas to save, so this was earmarked as one. Thanks to Minik, we've been back and forth with provincial government, multiple times, and now we believe we have something that is as coherent as we can possibly get it.
That's right. Okay, there we go.
So,
Statement.
So it wasn't just me.
so I really appreciate the work that has been done here and all the different options and the ramifications of a decision we made. I have a question regarding if we were to transfer the assets, which is the 2 buses, then we don't pay a penalty. So does that transfer include donation to another municipality? Or does the transfer have to include the sale of? So let's say we find a municipality and we say, hey, we want to donate these 2 buses. Does that exempt us from the penalty?
Thank you for the question. That's really a good
Well,
one.
because the penalty is 55,000 and the value of them is 58,000. So,
That's-
and they're 2016 and 2019.
She might have this.
Thank you very much. And through the chair, I do appreciate that question. And I think it can be either. So initially, I asked them to clarify what the word transfer meant.
Right.
Because I said in the day, we didn't really intend on donating them to another municipality or another organization. And you may recall that there had been some interested local organizations who were thinking of potentially having them either donated or being able to purchase at a very reasonable cost to them to be able to add to their fleet. And we currently also have West Winds who's looking for buses for the area. So there's discussions that are occurring there. So I think we have ample opportunity to be able to transfer this. It's just whether or not it would be considered, if one of our organizational partners would be considered a municipal partner.
Mhm.
And that's where we were snagged a bit. And I decided to come to council with the information I had. Because should you maintain the decision that you made regarding budget, then there needed to be time sufficient time to be able to adjust the program and wind it down. Otherwise, where we are sitting at the moment is I do believe that penalty would be waived if we sold to another municipality, but we have to get permission should it be a municipal partner such as West Winds. And we were also told that it would not be at the level that I'm dealing with. It goes straight to the minister. And because there's two different organizations and departments, one federal, one provincial, that are involved, we have to wait for decisions from both of those.
Well, that would be depreciated down to $12 by that time. Pick it up for a bag of chips and a Coke. Yeah, all right. Go ahead, Brendan.
Thanks, Monty. It was a good report. I'm just curious where the assessments for the buses themselves came from, because they just seemed a little low on my side. I'm just curious. I don't mind.
Thank you very much for the question, and through the mayor, these were provided through our civic ops department. Fleet manager had provided it to me, and this was considered through the book value. I would suggest the market value would be potentially higher than that, but that's all that we could rate it for, that we could provide as a credible source.
Okay, appreciate it. I think we bought them for twice that much.
Oh, easily.
Black Diamond. I think we were about 120 from Okotoks when we purchased them.
Were they brand new at the time?
No, they were used from Okotoks. Yeah, but they were fairly new, but the system wasn't working in Okotoks. So we bought them. They paid more for them.
Because they were caught in the same loop of you have to transfer them to another municipality.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that could have been the
Yeah.
case, but I'm not sure. I didn't.
So just to add, so West Winds is an agency under the Municipal Government Act, so it falls into the criteria, I think, just quite easily. Adam?
Yeah, it's your worship. The challenge here is you just can't get a clear answer, right? You send it in, it goes up through 3 different folks. So we had a legal review to see where we were. And where we're at is, okay, it's pretty clear to go to another municipality, but for that community agency, which in our view should satisfy the criteria, it's still a public good. That's not guaranteed. Right now, I don't know, it's taken 1 to 3 months for them to reply. So the reason why we brought this now is like Minik mentioned, I mean, if council does opt to terminate this program, we want to have a good amount of lead time to allow customers time to make other arrangements.
Councilor Gordon.
So trying to be pragmatic here, I'm looking at the fact that it basically runs a deficit of 35,500, give or take. If we cancel the project without transferring it to another municipality and we are penalized, that penalty is 50,000. So we're out 16 grand. That's the net loss.
The liability.
That's the net loss.
That comes up.
The net loss is 16 grand old.
Good.
So I'm almost to the point where if West Winds needs it, let's work with them. They're a local agency. They provide a great service in our community. Why wouldn't we work with them as a matter of goodwill and support our senior residents? And I'm not a fan of running deficits.
Brendan.
Yeah, so great point, Councilor Gordon. I think the sales of the buses would even cut that obviously much lower anyways. So this is gonna be a wash. And then next year, we're not looking at another 35,000, 36,000 deficit.
Yep.
As I said on the board for West Winds, and easily, as Mayor Crane knows, one of my favorite communities to sit on, I'd be in total favor of CAO Davey having a conversation further with Loren to see I don't know if they want both. So that might be a conversation there too. I mean, perhaps we kill the program, sell them one at a good rate as they're not for profit, and then we look to explore maybe selling the other one for more. If they only want one, but if they want them both.
True. Cindy.
When this whole bus thing came around, we were looking for other partners like Boys and Girls Club to run it. Can't we just have West Winds run them, to meet the bare minimum of what we have to do to keep the grant so we don't get a penalty and they still have the benefit of using the buses? So we get best of all worlds, don't play a penalty, they get buses they can use.
Can
and
still-
satisfy, well, no, satisfy the bare minimum of
The grant.
what the grant requires.
Hmm.
Or they provided their cost or something. I'm sure there's something that could work out financially. Because I thought partner organizations were allowed to run it, because I remember looking at Boys and Girls Club originally as a potential
They bought the-
runner,
They ran it.
right? So why couldn't West Winds run it for us?
Oh, I love debate when it's juicy like this. That's good. I like that.
Thank you for the question. This has been explored and
Yeah.
nurturing. We've looked at a number of ways because if we wait until March 1st, 2027, then the penalty is reduced to 10%. And we're looking at less than $10,000 worth of penalty. So it would be pragmatic to be able to say, is there a way to be able to limp along in some way? I would remind council also that there's a human cost to this and that the program does affect a number of seniors in the community and those that are looking for affordable forms of transportation. And in terms of subsidy, council subsidizes a lot, recreational programming, quite a bit. So I think this is one more where if we look at it, I'm not suggesting it be maintained just because of that, but if there was a way to be able to continue to provide the service in some other fashion. So for example, we've been exploring with Longview, we've been exploring with the Boys and Girls Club. They currently have the contract for the driver. We don't have an employee. That driver is employed by the Boys and Girls Club, and that has been in place since Black Diamond initiated the program. In speaking to West Winds, at the moment, it doesn't sound like this particular program would fit into what they were looking for. However, if this was something that could be negotiated and we could provide some form of the service that's currently being offered, then I think that would be something that eases through the transition until we find some other alternatives.
Iris, could you just scroll up there too? And then Brendan, go ahead. Yeah, right there. That's where.
Under the current model, do we need 2 buses? Like, are both being buses utilized at the same time?
Thank you, but I would like to, through the chair, defer to Craig.
Same enough.
I can feel your hand.
Thanks, it's fair. Yeah, so I'm gonna back this up a little bit. So being
Give
a
me context.
commercial vehicles, and more specifically, being a commercial vehicle with a lift on it, for special needs. It does require further or more intensive inspection and maintenance. So whether we park them or reduce the level of service or whatever it is we do, we still need to maintain, because it's still actively public service. We still need to maintain that level of maintenance. So the level of maintenance is a driver in that whether or not it's being used or used fully, if it's had 3 people lifted or 500 people lifted, we have a criteria that we must meet and follow to ensure public safety. So that's part of the maintenance costs that probably aren't being captured. Well, they're being captured in the cost of maintenance, but I'm just trying to explain that cost. To further, these buses tend to have mechanical issues. So if you take one, sell it, and we only have one, when we need a bus, we don't have a bus. So for example, there was an incident where a running board was pulled off the bus. We can't actively use that bus until that running board's in good repair. So it takes time to repair that damage. Now that bus is out of commission, the other bus is sort of backing us up. So it wouldn't be a recommended avenue of the service cut.
Okay, thanks, Greg. It's an expensive backup to have.
Councilor Bodie.
So I come back to the deficit. If we keep it going through May of 2027, that's over a 70,000 deficit that we're running. And 746 trips in 2024 with an operating deficit of 35,600 works out to every trip being subsidized by the taxpayer of almost $48. I'm wondering if there's not I think there must be a better solution. That's a pretty heavy subsidization.
Could increase the fares.
It's, I don't know that it's worse, but it's,
$100.
Increase the fares.
we may have to.
Well, it would less the burden on the taxpayers.
What is the present fare? I'm sure it's in the notes here.
Well, the revenue was only 8,000 for 746 trips, so that's just over $10 a trip.
Yeah.
So that's pretty minimal,
That's gas. Though.
Not in that van.
not in that van. Yeah,
So, okay.
Just chew on this?
Where do we want to go? Do we want to, yeah. It's a,
I think we give that recommendation.
we get some more information
With
from,
West-
from the option.
Yeah,
Cindy, I think nailed it. The start is see if they can run a bare minimum and meet the qualifications.
And they rent the buses from us and satisfy the needs of our grant, so we don't get a penalty, but they get buses they can use right away. That's what I'm asking.
I can confirm your worship, but I mean, essentially they'd have to reassign staff or bring the driver along, which would be a cost for them.
They
might.
have them.
Oh, well, I don't think Westlands is gonna facilitate a driver. I think we need to keep that contract with Longview.
There is some background information to be found.
Yeah.
So I think there's one more conversation to be had here with West Winds as our first option. Let's bring it back at that point, and then we can make a decision based on either financials one way or public good the other.
And then just to further that would be liability too, right? Like who's gonna insure it? Like if Westlands is taking over responsibility of the bus, but we're driving patrons that aren't Westlands residents on it, there's something happens. You know, I know Lauren's gonna ask that question.
Well, right now, we could take high country residents in that.
We can, but that's because the town is liable for anyone they put on that bus, right? As soon as you, I don't know, yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know how, that sounds
there's a lot
pretty
of
weird.
variables, guys.
Yeah.
Or we just sell that to a municipality, call it a day.
Is there any, are there any municipalities looking for us?
Thank you for the question, Councillor Martin. We've not really extended that out at this point in time. We wanted council direction on it. At budget time, it was fairly clear that there was a will to terminate the program to be able to eliminate the deficit. This would potentially still eliminate the program as we know it today, but it would allow time for the passengers to be able to find alternative sources of transportation while also negotiating either the sale of the bus, explore that. And again, Craig could speak to that a little bit more in terms of where we would do that. I think it can be isolated to other municipalities, as well as the opportunity to work with West Winds a little bit more closely. What we don't know just yet is whether or not they're interested in these particular buses. They're interested in the idea of it. I've provided them with information, but I'm sure that they would, of course, conduct their due diligence to find out if that's exactly what they have in mind for the purchase of the bus.
How many seniors use this service?
I can provide a summary of what I'd presented, I believe, in August, and it was essentially 98% were seniors, and then the balance were other age groups, if you're looking at the demographics. And of those, a large majority, I think it was, that were from the lodge or some sort of, high country.
On comment?
Yes, please.
I think it's safe to say that we'll just continue as is right now, right? We're not looking at canceling the service. I don't think we need to give anybody notice at this point. Let's just continue to have the conversation and at least alleviate that from any pressure that admin might be feeling in terms of the buses, but still explore it and then go from there.
I think of in a realistic world, if this conversation started now is wrapping up for the next budget cycle.
I think that's what the motion said, January.
Would be ideal, right?
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
So it's table.
I think so.
Okay, well, yeah, we got some clear points that we'd like investigated, so
Thanks,
can
Brian.
be formed up in an email. And you can
Minute.
follow up at West Winds, please.
He's told me she didn't want to buy them. He told me at the lot. Yeah, every time we're out, she's good. Yeah, and I mean, as a side note, with them taking possession of that land, Loren will be coming to speak to us probably immediately after the election to start talking about the new building behind High Country. And I'll kind of blend that in. Hey, here's some buses.
Yeah.
Consider that as part of our fee that we're gonna have to spend, which is 5%. which is gonna be about $1 million that they're gonna come knocking for. So just for council's awareness, but we're talking about a new lodge in the community as well, so. Anyways,
So a few banger bingo fundraisers, eh?
we're doing something, bottle collections or something. I don't know.
Thanks, Nick. Okay, Little New York Days Association theme is honoring Lung pioneers. Parade registration is for July 19th, 2025. You guys want to go in there?
I love that one.
That's a lot of
I'd
fun.
go down.
The three of us went last year.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, yeah, I didn't go last year.
Yeah, didn't you, weren't you in it?
The year before. And I'll knock on it. You'll give me that car again.
so you guys want to go in again?
Yeah, I'll go. Yeah.
It was Jonathan's, I thought, and his family.
Okay, I'll go.
What day you going again?
July 19th.
My birthday.
Saturdays.
I'm here.
Your birthday? Well, we'll have to go for dinner.
Longview Steak.
All right, Seth, make a motion.
Yeah.
Until 4:30.
Motion or you guys just want to send it out?
No, we gotta make the motion that council be represented at the 2025 Little New York Days by councilors Martin, Kelly,
Morton,
and Gordon.
Kelly. Yep.
And directs admin to provide a vehicle, candy and event registration.
Now,
I can pick up the candy.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you pick up the candy. Okay,
have they registered?
all in favor?
No, I think administration was.
Thank you.
Doesn't matter.
No, we'll pick
We
up the
just go to
candy
ballpark.
because you need a lot of candy. You gotta agree just with your candy.
Just submit the receipt.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is anyone from Longview registered to ours? Because we've never formally invited them, and
I
they
don't-
have invited us for the last
You
3
know
or
what?
4
Let's
years.
send it in.
You should.
We should.
Go ahead.
Can I make a motion?
Yeah.
That we invite, Longview for a parade, and even if they say no, at least it's like, hey,
Yeah.
thanks for inviting. They've invited us for
Good
the
call.
last 4 years, so it'd be nice to,
Sure, sure.
even if they say no.
I found it interesting. We went to the High River one on an invite and, I threw a few candy. No, we never got invited again.
Because you threw the candies and they told you not to throw the candies the whole time. There's so many people.
How much joy did I bring to those kids?
Yeah.
Now, one woman with the black eye, everybody had a great time.
There's a motion on the floor. All in favor?
Is it? No, I already voted.
No, for the invite, did we?
Yeah, we did.
Oh,
Yeah,
We
you
did.
put up your hand.
Wait,
Sure we did. It all went like this.
I'm sending them the invite.
All in favor?
okay, thank you.
Ah.
Thank you.
Okay, we got a Volunteer Appreciation Week proclamation, guys. I need a vote so I can see it.
I will give you that motion.
Yeah.
That council agrees to support the Barrow proclamation of National Volunteer Week in Diamond Valley for April 27th to May 3rd, 2025.
All in favor of me reading it? Oh, I love it.
I thought it was gonna make a deal with Verna would make you only be allowed to say the last.
Oh,
word.
yeah, this
And
one.
now therefore,
But this
You got to put that in a
Make a
motion.
This is volunteer appreciation.
Yeah, yeah.
We can't go wrong with this one. Through the official proclamation of National Volunteer Week, April 27, May 3rd, Diamond Valley Council acknowledges and expresses appreciation for all volunteers in our community throughout. Though it is difficult to measure the immense value volunteers bring to the community, the effects can be seen in many ways. When people dedicate even a small portion of their talents and time to helping others or supporting causes they are passionate about, their efforts create a ripple effect that has a positive impact on the whole community. Volunteers in Diamond Valley mentor our youth, feed our hungry, comfort our lonely, enhance the beauty of our natural spaces, and enhance in fundraising and engage in fundraising efforts for charitable causes. They clear snow from sidewalks, patrol our streets, and enhance safety for all, and even fill such crucial roles as firefighters. Volunteer supports our library, our businesses, our hospital and care facilities. They serve as stewards to the community through our churches, service organizations, and schools. They also play a vital role in serving on committees of council where they assist with decision-making and identifying solutions to issues facing our community and citizens. The volunteers of Diamond Valley represent a diverse array of individuals, including families, workers, retirees, and community members of all ages and backgrounds. Whether they volunteer formally or informally, they all make a difference. Their collective efforts consecutively and significantly contribute to the making of Diamond Valley a vibrant and desirable place to live. Now, therefore, I, Barry Crane, the mayor of Diamond Valley, do hereby declare April 27th and May 3rd, 2025 as Volunteer Week in Diamond Valley and call upon my fellow citizens to acknowledge and appreciate the indispensable contributions made by volunteers to the betterment of our community. Amen. Yes, we do. Yeah, one of my last proclamations.
We got an emergency management meeting coming up.
Right? Yeah, right. Oh, that's gonna be a good one. Okay, now I do believe we have one small closed item still left to go.
That's right, your worship.
All right, so we will just take a 5-minute recess.
It's 7:45.
7:45.
Your worship, you want to just mention to the folks at home that we will not be coming back on to
Yes, we will be going into a closed session under FOIP 19,
17.
17, thank you. And we will not have any motions coming out of that, so it will be adjourned shortly after that is finished.